Oh, she muted her mic. Hi, guys.
Yes.
Today
Guys
we're...
is not allowed to be said anymore, Bambos. Do you know that?
No. Today, guys, we're going to exit.
We're going to exit what?
Oh, I just like the backdrop.
Oh, we're going to exit today. You're right. Into the back door. Out through the back door. Something like that. Yuka Nakasone. We're going to talk to Yuka Nakasone, who's also a dear friend of another guest we've had on several times. Chris Carell. And we're going to discuss with her feeling like there's no place that really is home. And I think this is a great theme because I certainly feel it myself. And we're going to discuss that today, and I'm sure a lot more on
A Wonderful Chaos, guys.
And the Exit Room.
Show back to back all the intros that we've ever done.
Bambo says our favorite part of the show is our intros usually because they don't necessarily have a consistency to them, and that brings us great joy.
Yeah,
it's how we start, so we know we're on our toes.
So you mentioned something quite interesting just now. You also feel like you didn't belong.
I was going to play a horrible song that I knew you weren't going to like, but I was going to play it anyways. And I wrote about it in the book. It was a song by this artist in the 70s called Charlene.
Charlene.
No, that's Dolly Parton you're trying to sing. It's called
Trying to sing things.
I've Never Been to Me. And I've been to California and something da 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 da. I've never been to me. That's the end of the lyric. And there was a beauty. It was one of these songs that Case, my mentor, really loved. And this I've never been to me theme or idea is something that I've sort of felt into when I say I've never been to me is just making peace with everything that is. So when does home become an idea? Right, a social idea that I live in a country like Japan, and Japan is where I'm home. And when is home? Wow, I'm at peace with everything going on, and it feels like home.
And so what you're trying to say is, wherever I am in the world, outer circumstances doesn't really matter. I'm at peace.
Yeah, or even more so, there's a feeling of what it feels like to be home. Maybe you don't have that. I don't know if you do. When you go back to Cyprus, do you get off the plane and say, "Oh, I'm home"?
I want to kiss the ground. I want to take off my clothes. Like, seriously, I want to take my clothes off and rub myself against the mountain.
No, but seriously, do you have the feeling like this is home? Do you have that?
Cyprus has a very grounding, savage energy, raw, that I love. And it just feels, my body like vibrates.
Okay, but the question is, if you went to any other location that had the same energy, would your body vibrate, or is it because you associate with home? That's the question.
I had the same in Afghanistan.
Okay.
Yeah, really rough, raw.
So there are attributes which you associate with home.
Yeah.
Because when I go back to like Los Angeles,
I don't blame you, Andy.
I don't feel at home.
I don't blame you.
But if I go to, say, my high school or something, then I'll see and feel and sense, oh, I long for a younger age or a younger time when innocence or whatever I felt then. But I don't necessarily associate that per se with home. I had a similar feeling on the weekend. I can't exactly remember why, but I had a similar feeling on the weekend for some strange reason. I said, oh, that's what it felt like to reminisce. Oh, I can tell you why. I used to work at a restaurant. I owned a restaurant in Amsterdam, and I went back to the place where I bought vegetables. I haven't been there in 5 years.
The food center.
The food center.
Nice.
Imagine, I haven't been there in 5 years. All they know me as this, guy on a moped twice a week picking up vegetables. And now, in the meantime, I've written the 2 books. I've done the tours, and so they don't know me in that way. So I went back to the same people who knew me then, and it really felt like going back to high school. It's like a high school reunion. Yeah, it was really nice. And so that's the theme and the thing I thought would be really nice to talk to Yuka about, because I know the feeling and I'm curious how it is for her. It's weird because remember, I had such a great experience living in Japan for 2 years, and she needed to leave possibly for the same reasons that I loved living there.
Yeah.
And I'd love to have that as as sort of an understanding of where the things that I found beautiful and where the things that she said, well, that was exactly the reasons, or the things I didn't necessarily connect to, or maybe not. We'll see. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it'd be nice to bring her on now.
I'm going to push the button.
Push the button. I don't know any rest of the lyrics. Hey, Yuka.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Would you like to hear the Charlene song?
Yes, please.
I thought Vamos was going to say, I hope not. Maybe we'll play it a little bit later. And
actually, now you're done. Sing it.
Now, I don't know the lyrics well enough. It was a song that my mentor used to sing a lot, and it was a 70s song, not particularly nice, but the essence of the song was that I've been to all of these beautiful cities and places around the world, but I've never been to me, in the sense of I've never made peace with the thing inside of myself, as opposed to seeing all the other beauty outside. So that was a little bit of the thing that he always used to sing with that in mind.
And just for the record, Andy has two favorite songs. This one and Jesus Christ Superstar.
Oh, I love it.
Okay.
Whenever there's anyone suffering, there's one song, and I can't ever pronounce the word to it, but there's a song that's about
a lyric, you mean?
And it's the full song about Jesus when everyone has forsaken him, and he's singing these lyrics, and he's just so alone in the world. And whenever anyone's really suffering, I say, just do me a favor and listen to that song. So I just send it to them as a
Right.
And people can often identify. I don't know if you identified with it when you heard it or not.
I really don't like the song. It just annoys me.
I love it.
Like
Bambos doesn't ever lie to me. Just to make it clear, Yuka, that's not going to happen on the show.
It's good. It's good.
And our regular third wheel of the show, Bulelang, says Papa was a Rolling Stone. Yes.
Yeah, wherever he laid his hat was his home. That's one of my favorite songs, Sly and the Family Stone. Yuka, tell me, at what point when you were born in Japan did you say, what the hell is happening? I should not have been born here.
I think it's not true that I thought I shouldn't be here. It's more like the drive I had within me to push myself out.
And what did that feel like?
It's strange because I'm from a city called Takasaki, which is in Gunma Prefecture.
Okay.
It's close enough to Tokyo. It's 100 kilometers from Tokyo Station, which means 60 miles in the States. From Tokyo Station, it's close to Tokyo, but mountainside. I didn't have anybody lived in foreign countries or foreigner friends until like maybe high school or something like that. But from the beginning, like maybe 6-7 years old, I started to watch all these American shows, but of course in Japanese, like a Little House in the Prairie, World Cooking Show,
Bonanza.
No, I don't know. All these shows, and there's another particular show I liked was a Japanese woman traveling the world and reporting from foreign countries about her experiences, visiting houses, visiting people, visiting factories, visiting vineyards, visiting restaurants, something like that. It's nothing extraordinary right now, but if we think of it was almost 50 years ago, between 50 and 40 years ago, and from Japan, it's a woman reporting something like that was extraordinary. So I remember I was watching that show every week, and something within me was resonating with all these things. And it's not that I hated Japan, but it was more like I need to go out to explore the outer world. And this is what I want to see.
Okay, well, let's just start there. What did you hate about Japan then?
It was not particularly what?
I was being nasty with you. I was wondering if I could squeeze out some sensational words that you might say.
So you don't have to answer that question.
You don't, or if there are things that I'd love to hear, like what are the things? Hate is a really bad word.
You want to say no to?
No, I have, but I was thinking how to tell you, because I absolutely hate inequality in Japan, because I was in the countryside. I'm a girl in a traditional world. As much as I love study, as much as I love the idea of going foreign countries, for me it was a dream, like a dream.
Yeah.
So fast forward now, after 40 years, more or less, if I look back, I'm living my dream, really. So when I'm in a bad mood or bad place, psychologically bad place, like a little depressed, a little, what I say to myself, I remember that my life, as much as it looks like not good, but this is a dream of somebody else in Tokyo, a woman who is working in an office and going back and forth, her tiny apartment and the office, and dreaming of living in a foreign country and having her own business or having her freedom. I'm living a dream.
Yeah.
So that's what I.
This reminds me of my wife, Ronnie, because my wife is quite ambitious. She was born in Indonesia. And from a very early age, she felt the inequality in being a female in Indonesia, also outside in the village, not in the city. So she very early on said, this isn't where I want to be. I don't want to be in a place where I don't feel like I'm being treated as equal. And she ended up moving to the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, where she is now. Yeah.
Married to you.
So,
married to me.
It's you can see it's not just me or her. Maybe it's something common for women in these countries, especially in Asia. And I lived in Boston, Massachusetts, in the United States for about 3 years. And as you know, Boston has lots of universities, research centers, blah, blah, blah. It's one of the brain of the United States or the world.
Yeah.
There I saw lots of intelligent women with lots of capacity. And we are all like, we don't have place to be in Japan,
Yeah.
This is what we talked.
Oh, is that right?
It's not just me, it's being in Japan, living in Japan, being a woman, is not my cup of tea.
No. I lived in Japan for 2 years, right? And that And when I was there, it was the things I loved about Japan were more of the social sort of empathy. There's a lot of empathy, unlike anywhere else I had experienced.
Yeah.
I love your reaction to that. What makes you? What goes on when I say that?
You liked it because you didn't have to be them. You didn't have to become one of them.
Yeah, you're still an outsider.
Yeah.
And another reality is, as much as you wanted to be one of them, they wouldn't let you.
Yeah, I remember you.
I'm pretty sure you felt excluded. I mean, you can't really be a part of the Japanese people as much as you're fluent in Japanese.
Yeah,
as
obviously.
much as you. I mean, there's a
wall.
One of the glass wall or
Yeah.
glass ceiling. I don't know.
Yeah.
That is there
Sure.
for foreign people. So for you, it's beautiful to see all the people communicating without saying anything.
Yeah.
And see everything works in harmony, right? But imagine if you have to be a part of that.
Oh no, I hate. But you know what I used to say was that if you understand it and you show respect to it, because I saw foreigners who didn't show respect to it, and they'd always been said no, 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 and sort of somehow there was enough people who understood that I understood the social norms, although I wanted to do things outside of the social norms, that they let me do it.
Yeah.
Well, not exactly. My boss was a real jerk, and he would always say no. But I'd always go to the vice principal and the principal, and the vice principal and the principal would always say yes. So
are they Japanese?
Yeah, all Japanese, yeah.
And he said no?
He said no because he was worried I was going to screw it all up, and he was going to be responsible for it, of course.
And disgrace him.
And disgrace the whole. So yeah.
How did he communicate it was a no? He said
no.
No,
he'd always do the typical Japanese. So kana, so yeah, interesting idea. I want to say no.
Yeah, but it seems difficult for me. Something like
yeah, exactly.
That,
that's
right?
what he would say. Yeah. It sounds hard, complicated. And I was so ambitious that we had a lot of tension. And I remember it was in the book. You remember the section in the book where I spent 2 years. I learned how to speak Japanese. I even arranged several Japanese students to fly to America and do a photo exhibition of the differences between America and Japan. And I took them to a gun store, and I took them to the cemetery. I took them to the most absurd places so that they could experience a difference.
Are you serious?
Yeah, of course it was.
And when I was in America with you, just took me to this.
I just took you to McDonald's.
Cheesesteak, guys.
I took him for a cheesesteak in Philadelphia. But the thing is that when I ended it, I did this whole sumo tournament, really big deal, made it onto CNN. 20 foreigners in Mawashis, and they looked stupid and crazy, and it was a big tournament, really good success. And at the end, I longed for just a little bit of recognition and praise. Just good job, attaboy, anything. And he just said, Andy, foreigners will never understand sumo. That's all he said to me. After all.
Oh my God, yes. You know what? Oh my God, yeah. Because and in particular, sumo is kind of secret. I mean sacred.
Yeah.
Sports. So yeah, maybe.
Yeah, but then the words came out of my mouth that I couldn't take back again, and they will haunt me the rest of my life. I said to him, I remember it was so bad. I said to him,
"Oh my God,
how old were you? 20?
I don't know. I was too young to know better. Let's just say that.
He was young.
I said to him, you know what? The Nanking Massacre, you killed hundreds of thousands of Chinese, and it's not written in your history books. Sometimes you need a foreigner to understand your own country.
Andy.
We sat next to each other for the next weeks, and that was it. I was over him by then.
like the fact that you're cringing, Yuko, I know it's pretty bad what he just did.
Yeah.
It was
It's
bad.
the point that we don't want to be pointed. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but it came from pain. I was
yeah, I know.
See
hurt.
my
So
fingers?
in my defense, yes, sorry. Go ahead.
I have a question, Yuko. So, from the age of 7 or 8, when you felt this feeling, like this vibration, like I want to be, I don't want to be here, and you're watching on TV, like in your
Yeah.
imagination, you were going there.
Uh-huh.
How did you live between the age of 7 to the age of 22 when you left?
Uh-huh.
How did you live that part? Were you
Yeah,
like
yeah.
yeah?
Interesting question, because I did what I could. Like, everybody said, do what you can control. Don't dream what you can't control, but
Yeah.
do what you can do and control what you can control.
Mm.
That's what I did. I mean, I studied a lot. Really, I didn't have any problem at school, and because I wanted to be in foreign countries, I studied English a lot, because that was the language they teach at school, like
Yeah.
from not primary school but secondary school. And I asked my parents to send me to a private lessons
Wow, you were
to
very
learn
intentional.
English from 6 years old, or before, maybe before, because my brother started at 6 or 7, so maybe before.
Wow.
And I studied English. Then I made my way to, maybe I can major English in a university. And my young self said, I can study English and go to foreign countries, but I hated this teacher. I hated this teacher, but I had a very good teacher at high school. When I was, let's see, when I had to choose what I want to do after high school, which means 16 and 17, or 17 and 18, I had him as a teacher in the classroom. I mean, yeah. And he asked me, the first question he asked me, so what do you want to do in the university? If you want to go to the university, of course I wanted to go. And which university do you want to go, and what you want to do? So my answer was very, very easy. I want to go to one of these language universities to study English more. And he laughed. He laughed. I still remember his face. I still remember his face saying.
He laughed.
Yeah, he laughed.
Wow.
And because a little bit of a history of Japan. I mean, we lost the war, the Second World War. It was 1945. And from there, we started to rebuild the country, just like Germany, from the, rubble. I mean, nothing.
Yeah.
And from 60s, 70s, we had a growth, huge growth. And 80s, we had glory,
Yeah.
Japanese people going everywhere and blah, blah, blah. And Japanese corporations are doing great job in the world.
Yeah.
As a consequence, there are lots of Japanese executives living in foreign countries with their families, which means there are lots of bilingual kids growing in the States or UK, or where the English is the
Primary
official language. And he said, but how are you going to compete against these bilingual kids, or people who already went to the foreign countries from high school? How how do you are you going to compete against these people? And English is something that everybody knows. The value is, but the value comes from the scarcity. You have to think something of value because you're starting late. I mean, I'm nothing special. Like my parents are usual, normal Japanese people, middle class. Nothing to,
But fascinating that the professor, at one level, you can understand his reasoning. So what he said, on one level, there's one level that makes you want to cringe, like he's taking away your dream. But on another level, he's trying to use common sense, like you're going to be better positioning yourself in a market that has more scarcity. Yeah. It's kind of interesting how that is.
Yeah, and it worked out pretty well because from that meeting, I usually went to the library to study after the classes at school until they kicked me off. Like, we're closing, go away, go home, And I was reading lots of books, and I found a book in the library, in the high school library, about United Nations. And they're explaining that there are 5 official languages and blah, blah, blah. And I was reading about the United Nations, how it works, and the official languages, and blah, blah, blah. Still, I loved languages. I mean, like English. Actually, I was doubting because my hobby at that time was mathematics. I loved math and physics. So I was doubting if I go toward, languages or science. But my inclination was strong enough to pursue languages. And having this book in hand, I had the aha moment. Like, that's it. The value comes from scarcity, but it has to have demand as well. I mean, you can learn whatever, like Tibetan.
Yeah, you could learn anything. You could become the most scarce thing, and then no one wants it. Who cares?
That's it. So my logic went, so Yuka, choose one of the official languages of the United Nations.
Yeah.
Then you have demand, and it's not English, so it's a plus.
Nice.
Right? And
you know the best way to learn a language?
Living in the country.
Yeah, that's also important. Getting a boyfriend or a girlfriend, that's the best way to learn a language.
I can go there later.
I learned Japanese, and I always called it the horizontal Berlitz school.
What's that?
Horizontal Berlitz, because to making fun of the fact that I was making love to my Japanese teacher.
Oh my God.
What? Nothing.
I spoke Japanese like a female, which people would always laugh at because I used the typical Shinjo, but yeah, that's sorry, please continue.
Yes, continue.
Just interrupting you for no apparent reason.
No. So that was that. I wanted to choose one of the official languages from the United Nations, right? Yeah. And I went like, I don't want to do Chinese. I don't want to do Arabic. Then I want to do either French or Spanish. That was my choice. And my character, I mean, one of my characteristics, my nature, not characteristics, my nature was indecisiveness. One of my aunts told me that you'd never get married because you're so indecisive, you can't even choose a dish in a restaurant, you wouldn't be married.
Wow.
That was what she said. So I was very indecisive. I'm learning to be decisive, really decisive, but I didn't want to choose between Spanish and French. So I said to myself, I mean, I went back to the teacher saying,
Uh-huh.
okay, I have these two universities, and one is Sophia University, Jochi Daigaku, Sophia University,
Yeah.
and the other is the Tokyo University of Foreign Studies.
Mm-hmm.
As for language studies, they're top notch in Japan, not just Tokyo.
Yeah.
And I said to him, I'm going to take Spanish in this university and French in this university. And he laughed again because, and I was with my mother in that interview, and he laughed at me saying, you know, Mrs. Nakasone, what your daughter is saying, she's saying that she wants to go to the Andromeda, like galaxy, like impossible. I hated him.
We always have someone like that in our lives who doesn't at all get it. Like we live by the limitations they've set for themselves. Like it's horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it was good for me because the reason why I put one in Spanish, the other in French,
Yeah.
was I didn't want to choose,
Yeah.
So, as he's saying, it's very difficult to get into any of them. I don't have to choose. If one of them say yes, I go to that school, and that's it.
Nice.
And the real crisis came when both of them accepted.
Yeah.
Thought so.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. It was the crisis. I was crying because I couldn't choose.
So you went to both?
No, I didn't. I
You
couldn't.
went to the French one.
No.
Spanish. She learned French
Spanish.
with her ex.
Oh, okay.
Because
Nice.
because my school, Tokyo University of Foreign Studies, is a state university,
Okay.
and Sophia University is a very expensive private school.
Private. Mhm.
As much as I loved the idea of going to Sophia, it wasn't very realistic for my parents to send
Yeah.
me there. So I could have done something like going for scholarship, blah blah blah. But it was very easy for me to choose
Wow.
my university, Tokyo University of Foreign Studies, which is the best university in Japan as for language studies. So that was it. I mean, I cried for about a week, I guess. But after that, I made up my mind, and that's it. I started to study Spanish, and for 4 years, and
I'd like to segue though from your story into some other questions.
yeah.
Chris Garrell, a person that we both know, he writes us a question, and I'd like to take us now to more of like general lessons learned. So, like, you've now left your home country of Japan at 22, and you've now lived in at least Spain and France and the USA. I think it's unique because a lot of times when we're talking to other guests, it's usually the whitey that's traveled to Asia and then they come back. But it's not often that we get the Asian that's gone to the whitey countries. So there's like a joy in hearing from you. So what have you adopted from the countries you've been in, and how has that shaped who you are today?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question because it's my profession. I'm a globalization strategist, which means I touch all the cultural and language differences, and as a part of my work, I do translation and cultural adaptation, all this kind of stuff. So how can I answer to your questions? There's it's it's as much as you adapt the foreign culture into yours, there's a part of you that never changes. Yeah. So something very, very strange is happening to me right now, which is Spanish is eating my Japanese, meaning I connect to my emotions and connect to a part of myself that cannot do in Japanese. I do it in Spanish. The consequence is when I'm speaking in Japanese, maybe I mix Spanish. Talking on the phone with my mother, I say things in Spanish.
Hola.
In a very natural, maybe I say hola, natural way, with like reactions like coming up to me. Even talking to my mother,
that is
in Japanese.
It's funny you say that, because I noticed for myself when I learned a few languages, Japanese was more emotionally connected to how I felt than German and Dutch and even English. So, curiously, it was easier for me to speak Japanese than it was, and learn and speak Japanese, than it was to speak German, because German is so staccato, logical, strong, where the Japanese was more of an emotion. I experienced strangely as an emotional language. But now when I'm speaking to my Japanese friends, like you said, I pull in words that I think are Japanese and they don't understand me. And I can't for the life of me figure out why don't they understand what I'm saying. It's so obvious, not realizing that I'm switching the Dutch words with the Japanese ones.
Yeah. And Japanese people don't express the particularity of the Japanese culture, of the Japanese people. The obvious one is they don't express themselves. And I know that my mother never tell me whole truth. I know. Because after 10 years, maybe she can say, I said this on that day, but what I really wanted to say was blah. It happened several times. They never say, even a mother never ever say what they're thinking. So it's very difficult for Japanese people to express the emotions of the moment, because it's not something we do.
But my question, I have a question on that, because this I always felt like, I give you an example. When I was leaving Japan, I had a very dear friend, and we didn't talk about me leaving, but it was very painful for both of us. So even like the week I left, he slept at my house for the week, just because we knew we were going to be away, and it hurt so bad to think that we wouldn't be together. And then when we left, we just cried. So in some weird way, I felt more connected emotionally in that way of communicating than talking and saying, hey, it sucks that I'm not going to see you, and then all the words you would use and cover up the emotion. So was it only my experience, or was that similar to what you would say is in Japan as well?
Yeah. So they don't, I correct myself. I said, they don't express emotions. They don't express emotions with words. Okay. There are some social codes that you can read, that they're sad, they're mad, they're,
Yeah.
So maybe you're very sensitive of this kind of code, so you could decode what they meant, and maybe I think you have an ability to empathize a lot, so you could easily decode their code and express yourself in their way, and it felt very natural for you.
Yeah.
That bit, I don't know why, but maybe that is what happened, and it's not usual, I would say, because foreign people goes like clueless.
Yeah.
Even if we explain this is because blah, like explaining the situation, explaining their word, their actions, the meaning of XYZ, explaining like this to foreign people, sometimes they don't get it.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's because they're trying to understand something which isn't a feeling.
And I also say what you expressed was that they would like, and this was my experience, they'd like to think that if I show enough of the clues that aren't spoken, you'd understand what I wanted to say without having to say it. I shouldn't have to tell you no. You should just know it's a no because of how I'm saying it. Yeah.
Exactly.
I remember that it was one of the most special moments and saddest moments was when the principal of the high school that I was at died. And it was hard because I also was friends with this person. And when it happened, I was brought in to the family circle, and when there was a funeral, I was part of the main service. Even now, I could cry because it's so hard to feel. But there was a thought that Andy understands what's going on here. Like there wasn't the thought. Never did I feel like I belonged. Let's get that clear. I never felt in any way accepted, but I felt like Andy understands the significance, and he's not gonna do anything that's unacceptable to Japanese standards. He understands what this is about. And that was one of the most beautiful experiences that I had ever had. It was the most accepting I'd ever felt.
Yeah, this is what I was going to say. Maybe they accepted you.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah.
And it's very rare. Very rare.
I thought it was quite rare because the friends that I had living in other villages didn't get to do the things I was doing because to some degree they were imposing their way on the system, and I was actually understanding the system and then trying to figure out ways where I would respect it and not deny the things I also wanted to do. So I was lucky in that way. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, I have the same experience, but here in Catalonia.
Okay.
The part in Spain I'm living called Catalonia, and it's they're pretty closed. If you have a circle of friends, it's forever. But to be a friend, real friend, it's very difficult. But I really managed to be in a circles of friends, not just one. So I could be invited to the family event. I could be invited to a village event. And sometimes some foreign friends ask me, how did you manage to be with Catalan people? Because they're so, so close. I live here for XYZ years, but I never got to that kind of, experience.
Yeah.
And for me, it was a no-brainer because I came here from Boston because I had exactly that circle of my friends. And they're saying like, why don't you come back? I mean, I was in Boston. In between Madrid and Barcelona, there's Boston. And I was doing quite well. I was about to be promoted. I was about to, I had everything. I mean, the perfect life, you know. But something was lacking. And when I came back to Barcelona, Spain, everybody was saying, why don't you come back? You have everything. And somebody told me, we have all these friends and you just fit in there. Why don't you come back? And no foreign person, I never heard from any foreign friend, that they had this kind of relationship with
Interesting.
Catalan people. So I do understand what you experienced. it's not impossible, it's possible. There's something about us empathizing with
Yeah.
other people,
We have Bolalang, who is our South African friend. He's sort of the third person on the sofa every day we're here. He says Cape Town is also like that. It's difficult to break into a circle of friends or to make friends. And it's quite interesting because I've lived in a lot of different countries, and maybe outside, with the exception of Switzerland, because Switzerland is its own strange place. The Netherlands has been one of the hardest places to make Dutch friends.
Mm-hmm.
It's been one of the hardest places, like just naturally, like from just Dutch people, like foreigners here, you'll make a lot of foreign friends and stuff. But I've seen from just casually saying, "Hey, do you want to come over for dinner, or do you want to have this?" That doesn't happen here, nor does I see from Bolalang is it happening in South Africa.
Mm.
And clearly, in your case, it wasn't happening where you were at either. What's your experience
here in Holland? If I go out dancing, pre-COVID times, I could connect.
Yeah.
But
would you say connect or friends? Like, would someone ever say, "Hey, come over for dinner tonight"? Or, I mean, you're pretty sociable, so I probably, wherever you are in the world, you wouldn't have much of an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and then again, I'm quite difficult with inviting people into my life.
Yeah. Okay.
So that would be a different story.
Bambo doesn't like people in general, so.
Yeah. Don't like them.
I don't either, by the way. I'm not a big fan of a lot of social interaction. I like to be alone most of the time.
I like quality.
It didn't always used to be that way, though.
I like quality people.
Yeah.
Yuka, when I was in Cyprus as a little boy, I also felt I didn't belong. But I always, as a little child, I always felt that I was a mistake. And I always knew that or I'm going to end my life, or I need to, but I didn't really have a vision or a loving place to project myself into. And at some point in a drug addiction, I just saw people getting arrested in my social circle or dying from overdose.
Wow.
And that was a point, even though I was quite destructive, that was a point where I literally had a little amount of money. I bought a ticket. I think my sister even helped me back then because there was no internet. And I just got on a plane, and that was it. I never went back to live there. But
where did you fly?
I went to the UK.
Wow.
And I traveled.
For work?
No, I just landed there, and I was trying to create a new identity for myself because
without anything.
Yeah.
Wow.
So in a way, I kept on running from myself for a long time until.
How old were you?
19 when I left. Yeah.
Wow. So did you go back?
Yeah, that's the funny thing. At some point when I have made peace with myself, I'm at peace with the island and the people. Like when I go there, I feel a lot of love, but somehow Holland has really, I'm riding my bike in Holland and I'm like, it's a fucking amazing country. Like this evening, there was a beautiful light. I'm just like, wow. Like,
yeah.
So in a way, there wasn't really a point, but I kind of resonate with not belonging, but I had a more destructive part of it instead of a productive.
Yeah, it sounds like.
But why you say it's more destructive? I don't think my life was so like it's. I landed in Madrid, but against the will of other people. Again.
I know, but you had an intention in your life. The things that you did, studied. It felt like even while you were in Japan, you were building on something. I'm going to do this. Like you were energetically making a conscious choice of what you wanted to do to get you out of there.
Yeah, because there's no choice. I wouldn't be there.
Okay, in that way, it's similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because I actually read it similar to Bambos until you said what you just said. Like I felt like the energy that you described is I wanted, because as a kid you were watching that Japanese woman who was traveling every week, like I wanted to move away and have that experience. And what I heard Bambo saying is I needed to get out so that I could move away from the bad experience. So in that sense, it felt like your energy was more of a positive energy, where his was a negative getting away from.
But I was actually wanting to move away from myself.
But when I hear it, your energy, which I didn't necessarily understand to start with, is that you did want to also get away from the energy of Japan.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's
but we
why
started with we started with what did you hate about Japan, and you said nothing or little.
No. But I told you I can't accept the inequality.
She responded.
Yeah, she did afterwards. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. I mean, I don't blame anybody, but it's a part of the responsibilities of all this inequality belongs to women.
But inequality in those times, Yuka, was also in America.
Yeah, but I tell you what I experienced as a child. I have a brother. Only two kids at home. He hated studying. I loved studying.
Mm-hmm.
And in the evening, my mother called me when I was in the middle of study, my brother watching TV, okay, saying, Yuka, help me because I'm fixing the dinner. Every day.
Yeah.
It wasn't fair. But my mother is doing without any, I don't blame her. It's just natural, natural cultural thing that it's her who has to learn this, who has to help her mother. Even her brother is watching TV and laughing, so.
Yeah. But I experienced that far more extreme in Japan than I did, in America. It'd be no different than or societally, why is it that the woman is the one who's asked to fix the coffee or get the tea, right? But in some strange, weird way, it always felt more institutionalized when I was in Japan. It was like it was almost like in America, they might ask. In Japan, it was already obvious. that was the feeling.
Oh wow! Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So that wasn't, in a way, I wanted, but on the back of everything, I really didn't want it to be there.
Yeah.
And I was right.
Yeah.
And
clearly,
I was right.
So tell me how it is. You go and you fall in love with a foreigner. Think back. I'm sure it was a few years back.
Find that first one when you saw them, you're like, oh my God, I like this person.
Yes. Can you find that moment? Did you ever fall in love? Would you ever say you were in love?
Make sure you're breathing.
Take a deep breath, Yuka. Do you want to admit that at some point you may have loved the individual, or is it you denying that as well?
Drop the mic.
Boom. We can move on to another question.
No, I think I was.
Wow.
I think I was.
That's sad when I hear you say that.
Why?
Because I think I was is like then either there's an experience you can refer to say yes, oh, of course, or there's the idea of what it might have looked like, and then you think I think it was, because if I compare it with what I'm not even sure it could have been, then I'm sort of thinking that, well, was it that or wasn't it that? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess my assumption, because I made a big assumption, was that there would have been a moment when you would say, oh my God, my butterflies fluttered in my belly, and I was in love, found my first person, and then they happened to be a foreigner. Maybe they wouldn't.
No. That kind of moment, yes, of course.
Okay.
Of course.
Okay.
Oh, so what were you?
Yeah, what were you thinking that I was asking then?
But I was thinking a little deeper. That's it. Nothing more.
Okay. I can see we don't want to dig into that one too much. Okay. But I want to ask you, from the standpoint of now having a relationship with a foreigner outside of Japan, how was that experience for you?
There's no difference with a Japanese person and foreigner.
Well,
I don't think so.
how about social norms? Because as we discussed, there are certain ways that societally you would be approached if you were in Japan. There'd be certain expectations. This is my assumption, of course, that are different than the expectations if you were to meet a foreigner.
So you're talking about if she married a Japanese man?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
or maybe you didn't even think
I
about
could
it.
have. I could have, I could have.
Interesting. Well, Ronnie and I, because Ronnie, she was married. My wife was married once before she got divorced, and then we were together. And she'll often note some of the differences and how it was to be with me as a foreigner, as opposed to someone, an Indonesian, which was more had societal obligations and norms that were part of that relationship.
Yeah, but no.
Okay.
It's human to human.
Yeah.
I think.
Beautiful.
I think it's human to human. There's somebody I can understand, or even I have kind of telepathic communication being foreigner.
Yeah.
As well. And I think it's not the question of being I mean, it's a little outside, like deep inside, it's not the thing that you really care.
Yuka, I have a question. So you didn't feel at home in Japan when you started to travel to the West. Did you ever feel that people treated you differently, like a bit of a separation or even racism? Did you ever have that experience?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I did. I do have. I do have a lot, but
A lot.
A lot, and yeah.
How was that for you? How did you navigate that? Like you didn't
Um,
feel, oh, I wish I was with my people right now, or I wish I belonged somewhere.
No, but depending on where you go, it changes. For example, in Spain, there are kind of racists as well. And if I go on the street, maybe they call me like openly like Chinese, like China.
Okay.
But it's very open and dry. If I go to a little farther north, crossing the border, that country, I have a very mean experiences, like making me cry. I cried sometimes because it was so mean.
When you say north, where are we talking about? In France. Wow. I like that. I like her face when she said that.
But then again, like I'm not sure to what, like when I go to France, like I have to take a step back from what my mental state will project onto them, onto the people, because in general, it's not easy to communicate if you don't speak French. And a lot of people did refuse to speak English to me.
Sure. It's a lot of nationalism.
And in a way, it can come across as rude. But I was very careful not to go down that route. So my question would be, were you having the same experience as what I had, or could you really like feel a racial attack through just by being sensitive to people's energy? And breathe.
Well, did they call you words and stuff, and make like funny gestures, or was it just subtle?
Not subtle.
Like, I love how she says that.
No, treating as a stupid. Like in France, if you don't speak French, you're inferior.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
as much as I could communicate with people who wanted to communicate with me, my not speaking French, it can happen in France as well. When they really don't, I mean, in general, they don't want anybody who doesn't speak French,
Yeah.
so they don't like it. It's in general statement. But the other side of this is there are some people who really wants to communicate with me. So I can't really generalize it.
Yeah.
And I experienced both.
But you've had some pretty rough ones in France from
Oh,
your
yeah.
facial expression, I could see. Question for you. Have you ever felt at home in anywhere you've lived in your life?
What?
Have you ever felt at home? Have you ever felt that feeling inside where I belong here? And if so, where has that been?
I think it was in Spain.
In Spain.
I think.
And what are the qualities? What are the qualities that make you say, I feel at home?
Nice. The sense of belonging.
It's just the sense of easiness.
Uh-huh.
I don't have to make effort to adapt myself. I can be natural. I can be myself here.
Wow.
I don't have to make effort because I speak language and I understand people and I love Spanish culture. They're open. I mean, I told you Catalan people are pretty close, but
when
please
you're
understand me.
Yeah.
They are open if you compare it to other closed cultures. So yeah, I mean it's you don't have to make efforts.
No.
I mean, in Japan, I have to.
Yeah, I understood. I felt the most I ever felt at home was in Japan. Funnily enough.
Because you didn't have to make a lots of effort to communicate with people.
Yeah. Well, I felt understood. I felt like, although I wasn't Japanese and I always knew that they'd never really accept me, I always still felt like I was connected in the way that was enough for me. In fact, I almost liked not being any deeper connected. Otherwise, I'd have to follow societal norms. So I was happy to be understanding. What?
Cheating.
Yeah, I was cheating. Yeah, of course. Right. Take the best. It goes back to Chris's comment early on. He said, "What are the parts of other cultures that you've adopted in your own?" And I would say I've lived in, say, 6, 7 countries now, and each time a piece of that country, the part that I like best, is what I take with me as part of the new sort of reshaping of my own identity.
Nice.
And the thing that I think I took away from Japan, which I didn't know until many years later, was that shutting your fucking mouth and just being present is enough.
Nice.
Like, that's what I learned. And I loved it 30 some odd whatever years ago, but I didn't realize till I got much older why I loved it so much was because sometimes you don't need to say everything that's on your mind.
Yeah. That's the easy part of Japan. Yeah, true.
Yeah.
True. Wow.
And then there's a lot of other things I didn't like, of course, but that I could leave those things separately, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any perfect country in this world?
No.
Question.
Maybe Switzerland. That's the reason why I can't live there.
It's cold. It's not perfect for me.
The people was very hard for me to live in Switzerland. They were very emotionally not engaging. So I had a hard time connecting to the people there on any vulnerability. Yeah.
Did you try?
Wow.
Oh, yeah, a lot. Yes. Yuka, thank you for being with us. We've gone 5 minutes over. There's some comments that came in. It may be nice just to look at something. Chris Garel, who's with us, says in Japan, not answering is an answer. We discussed that. Yeah. He also mentioned something that an inside joke between you. That's the rating the air we were talking about last week. So clearly you two have a inroads. I see his wife is also watching.
Love you, Yuka.
Sarah Blumenstock.
Love you,
Yuka.
Sarah.
I like the name Blumenstock. Bambos, I know you don't like references, but I'd like for you to see a movie called The Producers, where the producer's name was Blumenstock. It was a very funny movie.
Really?
Yes.
Send me the link.
I'll send you a link to the movie. It is so funny. It's horribly funny.
And Andy has good sense of humor. So
yeah, you would like it. It's kind of dangerous, though, right? What were you going to say, Bennett?
Oh, one more comment.
This one or the... In France, they show African football players bananas while the match is playing. That is how bad some of those guys are. Yeah, exactly.
Every country has a redneck.
Yeah, exactly. And I always told you, don't use
Yannick. Sorry, I'm not talking badly about France. I'm sorry, Yannick.
Yeah, Yannick, you're the only nice French person there. We love you. She doesn't want you to take any offense to her comments.
He went to Canada with the family. He's now in Canada.
Oh, that's beautiful. And we have a few more other. It was an inspiring talk. Irina also says hello. And Yannick also says hello. We also see, I'm being corrected. It's Bialystok, not Blumenstock. Thank you, Sarah. She's correcting to make sure that we actually pronounce it properly.
I thought Sarah had two different profiles.
She does. She does.
Okay, good. So thank you, Yuka.
Thank you, Yuka. It was really nice to be with you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. There's one other word I want to, before I go, if I may. Ishin Denshin is one of the words that I took away from Japan. And every time I say it to a Japanese person, they don't associate any meaning to it that's of any importance.
What?
I know.
It's telepathic communication.
It's telepathic communication. And it's so weird because, I've written about it in my book. I've talked about it with my Japanese friends. Every time I say it, they think, what's the big deal? As if it's so normal. Why would you mention it?
Yeah.
They don't talk about it.
No. I always thought it was fascinating that no one thought it was all that interesting. And I'm always thinking it's the thing that was so special for me, telepathic communication.
No, it's kind of, telepathic or what Chris said, that you have to read the air. If you can read the atmosphere and social environment or whatever, it's something normal. It's nothing special.
Yeah. Well, for me, it was something special. So, because I'd never experienced an environment like that before.
Oh.
So I'm going to leave you with my favorite Dutch word, iketeru.
Yeah. Iketeru.
What? Iketeru.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool, right?
Yeah. It's kind of cool. Andy, you're very iketeru.
I was always told that I was moteru.
Don't know what that means, but sounds funny.
What would you say? Attractive or moteru?
Moteru.
No. He or she has a long line of boys or girls. You have lots of people attracted to you.
Yes, I have a long line of boys and girls attracted to me.
Yeah, he does. I'm a boy.
Thank you very much.
Yuka.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Till next time.
Bye.
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 Oh, that was nice.
Yeah, that was. It was fun because a lot of times when we've spoken about Japan, it's always with people that weren't Japanese. Finally, we have some local that we can actually connect with and have their experience.
Yeah. So tomorrow, last day, guys.
Petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time.
So tomorrow we are going to we're going to actually share some of our highlights.
Yeah, some of our favorite moments from the last 7 months. We've been doing this for 7 months. We started with the start of COVID, and we've done it pretty much every single day.
We started right 1 or 2 days after COVID was announced. That was it.
We said, what are we going to do with the next months of our lives? And we said, we're going to dedicate to doing something we would otherwise not even think about doing, which is a daily talk show. And no one thought it made any sense. Like every single day.
Are you guys making money?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
every day?
Every day.
Where do you get all these guests?
Yes. How do you live? You know, it was, you know, it was just, it's been wild.
It's been great.
And think about where we've gone with the show. I mean, and we've done 150 of these things. I feel like we've traveled around the world and back. It's an hour a day every day.
Around the
weekday.
world, but also inside and outside.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So
we've cried, we've laughed.
Yeah, we've done a lot of coaching and mentoring work on air, which has also been pretty wild. And it'll be nice to look back and sort of like connect with some of the moments that were most important to us over that time and how they shaped and formed us. And yeah, just to reflect. I think it's beautiful to reflect every so often.
Yeah. So guys, don't miss it. And then we're going to be back.
And then we're taking 2 months off. We're taking a 2-month hiatus.
Third week of January, we're back.
Third week of January, we're back. And we already have a guest lineup for the next 2 months after that. So we will be back for sure. And we're going to try to do some new stuff as well.
Yeah.
And we'll discuss maybe that tomorrow as well.
And we're going to do all this, Andy, on
A Wonderful Chaos.